Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
It was interesting as we got into just random questions throughout the interview process. I kept on hearing things where our football foundation and philosophies are very, very similar. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking offense or defense, special teams, time and time again, characteristics of not only our team, but maybe my personality, how I want our team to be coached, just kept coming out and in a real organic, natural way. And that was a really positive thing for me.
Into just our thoughts recapping the Brian Flores introductory press conference yesterday. I kind of feel like, just right off the top, I think our instinct on this was, we kind of talked about this a couple days ago, that last year, it was a year ago yesterday, that KOC was introduced as the Vikings' new head coach, and so he had to put all this prep into the Rams Super Bowl run, and he hired Ed Donatel as the defensive coordinator, probably now that he's a year into being a head coach and he understands sort of like what he wants, right? The Donatel hiring was clearly rushed, clearly not aligned with what he wants to do, be more aggressive on defense, and we'll see how this works out, but this feels like more of his guy than Donatel was a year ago. And you could kind of feel that in the conversation in that press conference yesterday.
I think what he did a year ago, too, because he was young, and a lot of things that KOC did, like I think is smart enough to learn from. I think he bought into a vision of what he thought, as opposed to the person really telling him, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And like that's the important thing. It's not like, well, this defense has been tough to play against and you're gonna run that defense, right? And the guy's like, oh, of course I am. So I just think that some of these things are going to be part of the natural progression of a learning experience. And as long as you're smart enough and not too stubborn, and I think KOC is both of those things. I think that you also evolve and learn, and it becomes far more clear in your mind. Okay, here's how I get from point A to point B seamlessly, as opposed to what was basically a defensive hiccup all throughout 2022.
Yeah, and so we'll get into all of it here. This is Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die, and we appreciate you guys helping to make this one of the most popular football podcasts in America in 2022, regularly hitting the top 10 on the Apple football chart. So thank you guys, and thank you to TCL, who's now an official partner of the NFL. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Learn more at TCL.com. And before we get into the Brian Flores press conference discussion, we don't normally just outright ask you for things on this show, our Purple Daily family, but we could actually use your help on something, because a few weeks back we had a conversation with Manscaped. That's right. Manscaped. The best in men's grooming products. It was an intervention about Judd's back hair, actually, is what it was, yeah. Judd. Actually, Judd, if you could...
don't laugh about that.
Yeah, Declan's actually coming up behind you right now. He's
Yep.
And so we had a conversation, and they're wondering, would Purple Daily listeners be interested in Manscaped products? And so if you guys are, Manscaped might jump in and be a long-term partner for us on Purple Daily. So manscaped.com, promo code PURPLE at checkout for a 20% discount on any product. PURPLE at checkout, 20% discount on any product. Declan, what are you rocking over there?
So I
you look a pretty well-groomed guy, actually.
Thank you. I try. We always talk about having a nice, little beard face, but we don't really talk about trimming down with the footballs, and below the belt is just as important. In fact, Manscaped has kind of opened my eyes, because I've always been looking for like a good electric razor, and none of them have really done, above and beyond. And this one gets more than just the job done. It's the best one I've ever had. Judd's rocking some of those sprays right here. What is this? This is, that's...
You know what?
That's ball. That's football toner.
I feel like they sprayed some of that on the field at the big game a couple weeks ago, guys.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what, boys? I could demonstrate. I got it right here.
What do you mean? What do you mean specifically by demonstrate?
I could demonstrate how this works. Like,
stay in the northern hemisphere.
I could keep it PG, but I could demonstrate.
Southern hemisphere on your own time, northern hemisphere on our time.
I'm just, I've got all the products right here. It's absolutely outstanding. It's easy, right? And I'm just saying, I could
keep your shirt on, Zolgad.
Yeah.
This is
the back hair.
There are children watching.
You broached the back hair. All I did was say I could demonstrate.
I personally am excited to check out the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, a waterproof cordless trimmer with 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. If you're like me and you have like 20 different guards, listen, this beard doesn't just groom itself,
right,
ladies and gentlemen, okay? That's right, old Macadac. It's all on one guard. It's very easy. So again, if you guys are interested in buying Manscaped products, they may jump in as an official partner of Purple Daily here. That would be cool. 20% off and free shipping with the code PURPLE at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the promo code PURPLE at checkout. All right, Judd. Keep your hands where we can see them here. Okay.
You know what? I thought that it would
just
help.
A spray. Just a
I
spray,
thought it would
Judd.
help the
Freshen them up,
viewers
okay?
to see a demonstration. I was willing to bring an actual stunt to the table, but no, that's fine. I'll put I'll put it away for now.
We appreciate your
I put
your
it away.
willingness to do anything for the show.
Killjoys.
So let's hear a clip from Brian Flores, yesterday introduced as the Vikings' new defensive coordinator here, Dex.
You need dirty work guys on your team. And by that, I mean guys who are taking on double teams so somebody else makes a tackle, or spilling a play so somebody else makes a tackle, or batting a ball down, or offensively, it's a receiver who blocks or tight ends who block, and those dirty work guys who don't get as much, media love as some of the other players.
Football.
Yeah, that's right. The dirty work guys. He was talking about the types of players that he looks for to fit in his sort of football ethos. Just kind of based on what you guys heard yesterday. And let's even include the players on defense who are set to become free agents, like the Dalvin Tomlinsons and the Duke Shelleys and the Patrick Petersons. What percentage of the Vikings defensive players do you think fit what Brian Flores is all about? Aggressiveness, dirty work, multiple positions.
So it was interesting. Brian Flores, I wouldn't call him a dynamic speaker, but he was a head coach of the Dolphins for 3 years, and he clearly learned how to go about his answers. And this was pointed out to me by a follower on Twitter, and it was a really good point because he was asked, somebody asked Brian Flores about, how the guys who are currently here sort of fit the scheme, fit the vision. How about that? Mm-hmm. And he, was not going to say, oh, I want sweeping changes. But as someone pointed out, and this is a really astute observation, he never, I don't believe, mentioned a name. He didn't talk about Harrison Smith's going to fit in this way, or Eric Kendricks is going to fit in that way. I don't think he mentioned one player's name, which is really smart because that leaves the options open then to say, hey, they all could fit in, or they might not.
Do you think that was talked about beforehand behind the scenes with PR down? Hey, Kwesi, let's not, because remember last year they were naming a lot of names. They named Kirk Cousins, but they had to name him in kind of a we expect him to be the starting quarterback. They just avoided that with the defensive names yesterday.
It certainly seems calculated to me. Like, I don't think it's a mistake. Nobody, ordinarily, wouldn't you say, Danielle Hunter, okay, let's go.
Harrison Smith is my kind of roving safety. Yeah.
I didn't pick it up totally myself, but once I saw it, the observation, I thought it was really, really on point. And I guess to answer your question, Phil, I'm not going to dismiss it as, because there will be someone like, of course he didn't mention names. Once you start, where do you stop? It's like, oh no, there are names to bring up. I think it was definitely whether it came from Flores, Kwesi, PR, KOC combination. I think it was definitely calculated that he was very diplomatic, but left the door open for, we'll have to see. And he said a couple of times, I'm at the start of this process too, which means I'm just starting to watch film, which probably is not entirely true. But again, if you're making decisions, you're probably not going to get up at your introductory press conference and say, what the hell was that? So yes, calculated. Absolutely. You guys.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dex.
I was going to say, I liked that he's going to bring like just this, to use his words, this aggressive style that's a lot different from Path. I love how, I think it was Will Raggets who kind of pressed him of, what type of schemes are we going to get? And he even kind of didn't even want to tip his hand. And at the end, they asked, 3-4-4-3, and he goes, well, who we playing? So like there is a whole layer of probably good complications, like complicated in a good way that this Vikings defense can use. And yeah, curiosity of which guys stays, which guys go, but there's clearly going to be a different level of complexity in a good way, I think, for this Vikings defense that'll keep offenses on their toes.
Is that so? One of his answers was I think it was the answer that you're talking about when he talked about cover zero. Is that one of the answers we have, or can we talk about that now?
We do not have one of those answers, but we can talk about that now.
Okay, because I thought that was really interesting, and that he even said, I don't want to. I'm not gonna. He said like, you guys want all the.
First day, huh?
First day, you want all the answers,
right there,
all the inside information. He was kind of playful and fun with it. But the question, I think, was specifically about cover zero. You run a lot of cover zero, historically and Seaford asked about this too. And what he did divulge was, because he kind of clowned with the media a little bit, saying like, oh, you guys want all the answers. And then he paused and he said, zero gives people some problems, meaning cover zero blitz gives people some problems. And that's if you do if you want to pour a surly and go on YouTube for a half hour and kill some time, there's some great breakdowns that show just how aggressive Brian Flores defenses are at the line of scrimmage. No safeties back. The cornerbacks are on an island. It doesn't always mean that you're bringing 7 guys on a blitz necessarily, but maybe you drop everyone back. But he loves to confuse offensive fronts. And I think my biggest question throughout this whole last year and a half, Mike Zimmer liked to confuse offensive front. It worked very well for a number of years. And then Brian Flores' defense worked very well in Miami and New England. Why would Ed Donatel and other more conservative defensive coordinators think that you can just play back in a shell 2 high safeties, mostly off coverage, right? Like, how and why would that work in 2022, 2023? Unless they were saying our personnel is so unequipped to play aggressively. Our linebackers can't get home on blitzes. Our cornerbacks aren't talented enough or physical enough to play press coverage, that the only choice we have is to be conservative and cross our fingers. That's the disconnect I'm trying to figure out. Like, why did they do what they did for 17 games in a playoff game when you know that it doesn't work in this era of NFL football?
So I think in retrospect now, it was unfortunately the perfect storm of declining personnel in some ways, and also Ed Donatel is, I think, a pretty good position coach. I think he's a lousy coordinator, and that was masked by the cologne that was Vic Fangio in Denver for a few years when Ed had the title, but he didn't have the responsibilities.
What do you think Vic Fangio smells like?
I think he smells like the best grooming products that you could possibly get from our friends at Manscaped. That's what I think. That's what I think. I'm going rogue, Manscaped. Here's where I just have to, Phil. I think you're right. I think that we have seen enough from Flores' defense with the Dolphins to create a distinction here. But we do have to recall that when Donatel got here originally, he talked about some of these same concepts. He talked about, I like to be multiple. Like, I don't, are you a 3-4? Yeah, I'm a 3-4 base guy, but what's the situation? Because we'll play a ton of 4-3 as well.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to see this now. I think after a year of sort of going in and blindly believing that Ed Donatel was going to maximize his personnel, which he clearly did not, that's where Flores has to be a different coach, where he has to do this. You know what? We had a show, I think, and certainly in-depth conversations about Lewis Cine and our expectation that not only would he play, and he had a chance to play before he got hurt, he didn't, but that he would be used, I thought, as a hybrid linebacker at times because he's a big enough guy and he loves to hit. And so, we had all of these expectations about what Ed was going to do just as far as trying to confuse quarterbacks. And he really didn't do them. And I think Flores will be different, but that's where it's also okay, show us now. Because we could talk about what we think he's going to do, but clearly until we see it put into action with the personnel that they choose too. So like this can't be a second consecutive year of, well, we kept our personnel because we thought it would be good. A lot of assumptions were made defensively about the personnel going into 2022 that were incredibly flawed. Those players either have to show marked improvement or be replaced. And if they're not, I think you're setting yourself up for some of the same problems because the season starts and it's like, oh my God, these guys can't do what we thought. What can they do? And like, that's where I think it gets super dicey. Flores sounds to me like, though, I think if they come to Brian Flores and say, hey, Brian, we love Eric Kendricks, like he's just our guy. I think Flores would tell him to go to the top floor and jump. I think Ed would say, I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Flores seems like there's no BS there, which I really like.
Yep. By the way, we are, so yesterday marked the 1 month point until the free agent gates open. So it's Wednesday, March 15th at like 3 o'clock Central Time when players can officially sign on the dotted line. So we are 1 month away from the Vikings adding players. There's going to be a lot of things that happen in the next month. And then there's like the 3-day legal tampering window that takes place before that. So mark your calendars, kids. The week of March 12th is going to be pretty insane for everyone, including Vikings fans. All right, let's hear more here, Dex, from Brian Flores, new Vikings defensive coordinator.
And, try not to do some of the things that they don't do well. I think that's kind of a common, phrase that coaches use oftentimes. I think it's something that we should do. It makes sense to me. But tough and smart. I want guys that have fun. Again, it can be a grueling game. It can be a physical game. But I want our guys to have joy as they play.
I think last year, I don't know, it felt like there was some joy, like Patrick Peterson picking off a pass or whatever to ice a game. Like there was some joy. But it seemed like defensively a lot of finger pointing, frustration, yelling, right? I don't think it was toxic necessarily, but it was just a lot of guys banging their head against the wall. But if you have the right leader on that side of the football, and Brian Flores is going to be essentially the head coach of the defense, right? Like he has more head coaching experience than Kevin O'Connell does. He's older than Kevin O'Connell. But I think it's going to help guys play with more joy if they have a scheme that allows them to do so. How are you supposed to play with joy when you're just sitting back on your heels getting punched for 3 hours? It's more fun, even if you give up 30 points, to take the fight to an offense. So I think just from that standpoint, hey guys, we're gonna shift our dynamic here. It's gonna be more fun by nature because we're gonna try and confuse them. We're gonna at one point, KOC referenced the term weighty downs, weighty like
Mike T.
weighty downs. It's
Mike
a
T
Mike
loves
Tomlin
that
phrase for those critical downs.
Yep.
And sort of the obsession, and Brian Flores adopts this. Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, how can you apply pressure on those weighty downs, right? That's fun. And when you do it and you do it well and you sack a quarterback or you force a turnover or you force a rushed incomplete pass, that's how you play with joy.
Right.
So to me, it's like you don't just play, we need to go play with more joy. No, you need to like actually do things that lead to a joyous feeling on the field.
So I think that response from Flores was more of it's a good soundbite, but you know what? First of all, joy was not the problem. The 2021 Vikings were joyless. The 2022 team actually, I think, had great fun. I think the chemistry was very good. I think that there was some anger at times about lack of success for sure defensively, but I don't think that like chemistry and joy was part of their problem. I think if Brian Flores had been being totally upfront about what he wants is, I want to see more of an edge. I want to see more of an aggressive edge where guys go into the game pissed off, not at each other, but at the fact that the team might score against them. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, there is no question Zimmer's last year was marked with a team that looked like they hated the game. Like they did not have fun. Half of them were, would make some meaningless play and celebrate, and half would walk off the field disgusted. This past team was not like that. Like, I think that they were all on the same page. So what I want to see is what Brian Flores' personality appears to be, which is a super pretty intense dude and a guy who is not going to suffer fools or put up with BS. I want that to be the personality of the defense now.
Yeah.
Yes, on game day.
I agree. Let's hear one more clip here from Brian Flores.
I'm where my feet are. I'm very excited to be here. You know, I think, any other opportunities that present themselves in the future, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Obviously, I have goals and things that I'd like to accomplish in the future, but those can change, and I'm happy right now in Minnesota. I really am. I'm happy here with Kevin, and, this opportunity is something that, I'm overjoyed to be a part of this organization.
Does it give you pause? So that question was kind of in regards to, hey, you're going to be in the head coaching mix probably until you get another job. So you're going to, I'm assuming, be looking for a head coaching job next year. Does it bother you guys or give you guys pause that he might be a one and done defensive coordinator?
It did initially, but you know what? Now, if he is indeed one and done here, it means he basically did a fantastic job of turning around the defense. So if you're Kevin O'Connell, in an odd way, I guess, you're sort of rooting for Brian Flores to be a hot candidate after the coming season because of exactly that. So yes, would it be ideal to finally get a guy who's going to, especially because, to your point, Phil, he's going to be head coach of defense. Would it be ideal to get a guy who is going to have his feet here for 2 or 3 years? Yes. But the reality is this, with what this team tries to do, which is win on a yearly basis, sometimes they cut corners to try and do so. But if you're Kevin O'Connell, your goal is to probably be trying to look for a guy on this staff who you think can develop as Brian Flores' replacement, because you almost want 2 or 3 teams to come calling after the season to try and hire him as their head coach.
Yeah, I think I don't have a problem, because if he comes in and he just fixes the defense to be 19th instead of 31st, and that vaults him into a head coaching job, well, then he's done an awesome job, and the defense is in a better spot for the next coordinator to come along. And I think, Kevin O'Connell has shown, at least early on, too, that he's not a guy that has to beg coaches to come and work for him. The fact that Brian Flores, out of many different options, including still being in the mix for the Arizona Cardinals head coaching job, which he confirmed yesterday that, all right, I feel bad. I think I had a tweet that confused a lot of Cardinals fans yesterday, because I tweeted, Brian Flores was asked by Chris Thomason, were you still in the mix for that Cardinals job when you took the Vikings job? And he said, yes. I was like, he turned the Cardinals
Called him up, yeah,
opportunity down before it had played itself out. And I tweeted out, Brian Flores confirms that he turned down the Cardinals head coaching opportunity to take the Vikings defensive head coaching job. And it kept getting retweeted and retweeted, because I think it was interpreted that he was offered the job.
Gotcha.
No, he wasn't offered the job. Maybe he was. That hasn't come out publicly. But he was in the mix for the opportunity. He turned that down. He turned down another year working with Mike Tomlin, and he could have sat there with Pittsburgh for another year. So I think, even if he leaves after a year, I think if the team performs well again and the defense gets better, it won't be that hard for Kevin O'Connell to just go find, Brandon Staley might get fired, and then you hire him to replace Brian Flores or something. There will be options for KOC to tap into.
Yeah, it's ideal in that sense. I guess my question is this too, though. I don't think it's a slam dunk that he's going to get a head coaching job after 2023, because there are a lot of variables, and I think across the board, none of us realistically expect that the Vikings are probably going to win 13 games again. And so I wouldn't say it's a slam dunk if they are, but if he does a good job here and gets this defense on a path to be, because right now I don't feel like they're even on the right path.
Yeah.
There's going to be hopefully a lot of transition here with players going, but I also don't think that the young players were necessarily put in a position where I'm like, okay, the vision is here yet. So I guess the most important thing is for Brian Flores now to establish the vision that he articulated yesterday, keeping in mind that Donatel had sort of the same thing and didn't come close.
Yeah.
So can you get there?
Yep. So, that's, it wasn't the most fireworks press conference or anything. Brian Flores is a pretty understated guy, but the guy can coach. He's shown it across more than a decade, 15 plus years in the NFL. So
how would you feel? How would you guys feel? And to go back to, I think it was 2019 when he got the job, if that was his introductory press conference as your head coach?
It's funny. I actually went back and watched like 10 minutes of his head coach introductory press conference. It was the same. Super low key. Yeah.
I think that's him. But I'm just saying, as a DC, I'm fine with this. Like, I didn't expect fireworks. And I thought that he did. He's clearly smart. He clearly has an idea defensively of what he wants. But then I was trying to think of the translation because like O'Connell comes in, or like Tomlin in Pittsburgh, right? Like, you are ready to run through a wall. Like when Mike Tomlin got done in Pittsburgh, you were like, yeah, I would. But if this had been if Brian Flores had been introduced as head coach of the Vikings, how would you feel? Because to me, there's a big wide gap between coordinator. Okay, cool. And oh my God, this guy's a head coach.
I think I would need to sort of self-reflect on how I would feel, because I would feel like, oh man, he's not that dynamic. You want someone that is going to be dynamic, right? Someone that's going to give the passionate speech and raise his emotions. Like, that's what sucks you in for an introductory press conference. Well, Nick Sirianni had the biggest train wreck introductory press conference in recent NFL history.
Good point.
And he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. Bill Belichick, when he got hired in New England, 20 years ago, was very Bill Belichick, monotone and he's the greatest coach of all time. Tim Brewster came in and had everyone running through a wall at at whatever, Bierman or wherever they did the press conference, 15 years ago, and he was one of the most incompetent college football coaches you'll ever find. So I feel like, to answer your question, like, I would have been a little underwhelmed by the energy level if that was a head coach press conference, but I would have had to check it and say, well, the introductory press conference isn't where games are won. It's just where first impressions are made. Mm-hmm. So if you can coach, you can coach. Nick Sirianni, you would have said that guy is in over his head and screwed, and he was anything but that.
If we are going to rank bad initial head coach press conferences, don't forget my guy Chili in 2006, where Bud Grant actually had to tell him to get closer to the microphone. Like Bud was at the front, and Bud's literally like, "Move closer."
Okay, we're gonna run a kick-ass offense. Tahi.
Poor Tahi.
Thanks, Brad.
Poor Tahi.
Shit.
Just for that poor guy, probably wants so badly to be like forgotten, right? He's like, I'm Fahu Tahi. Probably moved back to Utah, and it's like nailed. His name will live in infamy in this city.
Hey, before we get to some mockage and a random Viking of the week coming up on Purple Daily, Judd and I will be hosting a Purple Daily Town Hall Q&A. And we're inviting all of the members of the Purple Daily Leadership Cabinet and anyone else who would like to join. And you're going to bring the flag. I don't know if we're going to have
flag is coming.
Ode to Joy, but the flag will be there.
We'll wave the flag.
This is going to take place at the Minneapolis Convention Center, Hall B, as part of the Minnesota Golf Show, the Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show. It's an event that we have sort of co-sponsored at Score North throughout the years. Friday, February 24th, 2 to 4 o'clock. Saturday, February 25th, 2 to 4 o'clock. We're going to hang out, take your Vikings questions, maybe mix in a couple adult beverages, some write that down predictions, very casual, fun setting, and we will record everything and put it on the podcast feed as well for Purple Daily. Tickets are just $12. $12, MinnesotaGolfShow.com. And this also includes like 14 free rounds of golf. If you're into golf, there's all sorts of fun booths and trips and all sorts of things. So the first ever Purple Daily Town Hall Q&A is part of the Minnesota Golf Show. They have a stage with different podcasts and entertainment going on. And again, Friday, February 24th at 2 o'clock, Saturday, February 25th at 2 o'clock, MinnesotaGolfShow.com to get tickets.
The cabinet. I can't wait to see the cabinet. Check in. We can discuss the state of the cabinet itself.
It'd be great. Yes. All right. Let's. Are we gonna hit? There we go. Nice. Love it. We missed this one a couple weeks ago from TheRinger.com. The Ringer has a mock draft with trades, and I think we should go through it. We'll start with the number one overall pick here. This is from like I think Danny Kelly is the mocker here, but it's from 2 weeks ago, but it's still very much relevant here. He's got the Carolina Panthers trading up for the number 1 pick and drafting Bryce Young. Carolina gives Chicago the 9th overall pick, so they swap the 9 and the 1, and future first-rounders in 2024 and 2025.
Okay, so we're talking, it's a little more the Trey Lance trade, right, that San Francisco made?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
That was with, who was that with, Philly?
Who was that with? I don't remember.
But it was like the 12th, I think it was the team drafting, or I think San Fran was 12th or something and moved up to 3. So, this is a little bit more along those lines.
Number 2, C.J. Stroud to the Houston Texans. Will Anderson Jr. to the Cardinals. Will Levis to the Colts at 4. So 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks.
Okay.
Let's skip around here. Let's see here. Good. Christian Gonzalez, the first defensive back off the board at 7 to the Raiders. The Bears wind up with Peter Skoronski at 9, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. Joey Porter Jr., defensive back to the Eagles at 10. Most of the mocks that we have rounded up for you guys are cornerbacks going to the Vikings, by the way. Michael Mayer, the Notre Dame tight end, to the Titans at 11 here. We have the first wide receiver off the board, 12 to the Texans, Jordan Addison from USC. Scroll, scroll, scroll. You see me scrolling. Yeah, a bunch of meat and potatoes here. Meat and potatoes. There's Devin Witherspoon, defensive back to the Lions at 18. Anthony Richardson falling to 20. Taken by the Seahawks.
Boy, I don't see that one, but I guess if he had a terrible combine, right?
Which
bad pro
he's
day.
Almost certainly going to have a. Well, the accuracy is always an issue, but
He
he's going
probably
to
won't-
be a great combine guy, right?
Yeah, and he probably won't throw at the combine. My guess is he'll only throw on his pro day.
So if he
not
doesn't
at the
throw at the combine and he only does all the athleticism drills,
it doesn't hurt you that much. So many guys now don't throw at the combine.
And that brings us to the number 23 pick, where the Minnesota Vikings, according to The Ringer, select out of North Carolina wide receiver Josh Downs. First time we've seen Josh Downs to the Vikings here.
Okay.
Adam Thielen isn't getting any younger. His cap number blooms to over $19 million, making him a potential cap casualty. Even if he works out a deal to stay, the Vikings could use more playmakers around Kirk Cousins. Downs can line up both outside and in the slot and would be a nice complement to Justin Jefferson. There's also a full scouting report here, which is kind of crazy. A lot of football terms here. Downs has a short, slightly built frame, but brings natural playmaking talent and a ball winner's mentality.
Oh,
yes.
Speaking of Manscaped.
And yeah, exactly. An excellent all-around athlete who also starred in high school track, finishing 3rd in the state triple jump and 4th in the long jump. So a track star as well. Yeah, he finished 94 catches last year, 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns in just 11 games for North Carolina. So Josh Downs to the Vikings, according to The Ringer.
Where was he on as far as wide receivers going? Was he the third receiver?
Looks
or
like
second?
the third. Unless I'm missing the USC guy here. Let me see here. Where's Quentin Johnston? Quentin Johnston goes 26th. So he's got Down, and then Bijan Robinson, who's a running back, going to the Bills at 27. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba going to the Saints at 29. So, and then Jalen Hyatt. There's a run on receivers here. So you'd be the second receiver out of 5 in the first round, according to The Ringer.
Okay. All right.
There you go. Okay.
I don't mind it. So
you got The Ringer, and you got Todd McShay, the Todd father, going receiver at 23.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. And I know that, defense, the offense isn't the problem. To me, that's the wrong way to look at it. The offense is an opportunity. The offense is the closest thing to being elite that the Vikings have. So I would rather have, if the board plays out this way and it's like, boy, you have your pick of all but one receiver and you can make your offense even more explosive, and now it's a top 5 offense. Well, now you have an elite offense. Now you're scoring 30 points a game, right? The defense is going to get better because of Brian Flores. You also have free agency. We're going to know more about if they sign a cornerback in free agency, all of a sudden they're probably not drafting one in the first round. right?
If you do not sign a cornerback in free agency as your sort of all-in move in that process, I think it creates a lot more of a dilemma and question mark at the draft. But if you sign one, then I think the opportunity to improve at receiver, which by the way, you passed up last year.
Yeah.
So like this is a position of need, as crazy as that might sound. I think it becomes a lot more clear if you can get a corner in March in free agency and then address wide receiver first round. Yes, I think that makes sense.
And you're thinking, if you're going to spend, $10 million a year on something, there's not, you don't get access to really viable number 2 receivers in free agency very often. There's not a whole lot there this year. I mean, not that there's a boatload of cornerbacks either, but I just think they're more likely to spend on a cornerback in free agency than on a receiver. It would be nice to get a rookie scale contract receiver, knowing that you're about to pay one here $30 million a year or more.
Well, and with what receivers make now, like corners still make a ton. Don't get me wrong there, right? But I think that it's a lot more viable to get a cornerback coming out of his first contract on a free agent deal that at least you consider palatable.
Yeah.
Where wide receiver, if you go, I mean, they're becoming so desired now that for the most part, those top guys coming out of their first contracts aren't going to hit the market anymore.
Yeah.
They'll get franchised or just sign long term.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like you can for the franchise tag. It's funny because players still complain about that, but like, why do they keep collectively bargaining it every 5 or 10
years? Their
union
stinks.
This franchise tag isn't fair. Well, then negotiate to get rid of it.
Yeah. You know what? Go on strike. We can't do that. We can't go on strike. Okay, then quit bitching.
All right, it's time now for the random Viking of the week on Purple Daily. A battle of wits that Judd usually wins statistically. He has a 46-26 lead all time on Declan and me. Declan and I alternate every other week, and it's Declan's turn to lead here with a random Viking. The rules are simple. He'll throw out a series of clues. We each get up to 3 incorrect guesses. Once we're out of guesses, we lose, so you got to be a little careful being too aggressive. We can ask Declan questions, but he can refuse to answer if he wants to.
All right.
Capiche?
Capiche. All right, boys. Let's start with this. This random Viking of the week.
No Googling.
No Googling. Just writing down. Played in 41 NFL games. He only made 17 starts. 41 NFL games, 17 starts. He also appeared in 2 playoff games. Any guesses? Anything?
2 playoff games.
I do not. Perhaps Phil does.
I think I do have a guess, but I'm gonna hold it for a second.
Okay. All right.
Wait, has this guy been guessed? I'm gonna Control F on the. I'm not.
He apparently has not been used on this spreadsheet. Or the document that we have, I should say, not a spreadsheet.
Okay, the guy I was gonna guess has been used.
Okay. All right, this random Viking of the week in high school had offers from the following schools. A lot of Big Ten schools. Michigan, Ohio State, Northwestern, Minnesota, Notre Dame were some of the offers he got in high school.
Okay.
I went down a random, speaking of random Viking of the week, I went down a random high school path here, and apparently in high school, this random Viking of the week could bench press more than 350 pounds, and he ran a 4.340.
Whoa, okay. Okay. That's interesting.
This random Viking of the week, post-retirement, he owns what is called water ice in New Orleans. Water ice is a tasty dessert that's big in the East. It's a granulated concoction blended with flavor throughout scoops and eats like ice cream. It melts slowly and makes for the perfect treat on a hot day. So if that helps you decide what we're talking about. the little entrepreneur in New Orleans.
Okay, is it Darius Raynaud?
I've guessed him before.
I know
but
you
I don't think
have.
we've had him yet.
I know you have.
I think I guessed him like 2 weeks ago. All right. 41 games.
This random Viking of the week. Did I say this? This random Viking of the week was a 5th-round draft pick.
I got a question. Was he a 5th-round draft pick by the Vikings?
I will not answer that question.
Okay.
I can refuse the answer.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Do you have any other clues?
Yeah, I have more clues.
Okay.
No, I got more clues.
Okay.
This random Viking of the week had just 1 NFL touchdown in his career. Just 1. But yeah,
I'm still
41
trying to figure out
games,
what
1
position this guy plays.
Yeah, there's a couple different choices here. There are at least a couple different choices, for sure. Or more, a few more. All right.
Let's see, where do I go with this next one? This random Viking of the week stayed close to home.
What do you mean?
For the Vikings or for college?
For college and then eventually professionally.
But not eventually as a Viking, or eventually like with a
Well, he
different
played
team?
for the Vikings, so yes, he eventually stayed close to home.
Okay. Because there's a chance that he had played elsewhere, which would be close to home as well. All right.
This random Viking of the week, this might give it away. I think I've mentioned this before. He is the only athlete to ever score a touchdown in the Dome as a high schooler, college player, and NFL player.
The 17 starts in the 41 games is throwing me off here. So touchdown in the Dome in high school.
This random Viking of the week and I went to the same district in high school.
Is it Thomas DePay? Yeah!
Nice.
Whoa! Bang!
Nice.
Woo!
Thomas DePay.
You know, he is kind of an entrepreneur. Didn't he have some other... When he played for the Vikings, he had some sort of little side gig going on, right?
But we got scared of him because he intimidated us with that look.
He did. He did not like the media very much. Thomas DePay, yeah.
The other one was going to be, and I thought this would be a giveaway. I was going to say after his free agent or his first season with the Eagles, first career stop with the Eagles, he signed a 5-year contract with Minnesota, but only played in 1 of those seasons.
That would have been, I think both of us would have.
Because
he replaced Tony Richardson, didn't he?
Yeah, but he also didn't divulge the fact that he came damaged. He was
Foot
hurt.
problem.
Yeah. And the Vikings were not too happy that no one... I don't know how they missed it on the physical, but I remember Childress was pissed. Anyway,
how do you find stuff out like that on a physical? Like, how do you find out a guy doesn't want to tell you he has a foot injury? Do you have to, like, bend their feet around in the physical?
I think...
Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Give me your arm.
I would guess that you poke and prod all places that you possibly can that affect their play, right? Like feet, hands. I don't know.
Throwing rocks at their knees.
I don't know. I mean,
dance for me.
That was a good one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thomas DePay, I am willing to bet couldn't have danced. He was very much a fullback.
Yeah. All right, there it is. Random Viking of the week. We're back on the board here after Judd dominated. Oh, it was, I guess. Judd's been dominating.
He was dominating.
Judd had 6 of the last 7 before then. Warren Moon, Michael Floyd, Mick Tinglehoff, Robert Griffith, Chester Taylor, Herschel Walker, Chad Beebe was the one that we got. So, all right, we're back on the board here, Dex. Good stuff.
Very nice. Congratulations, boys.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on Purple Daily. And one more shameless plug here, too. That's manscaped.com, and it's promo code PURPLE if you want to help out the show. It's in the comments as well. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Daily Vikings Entertainment.